Covering news where you live, this is 5 News.
Well, thank you for joining us here for the latest news and weather where you live. I'm Joe Ellison. Now, 1 week ago today, you remember those tornadoes went through parts of central and eastern Arkansas, causing some damage. Now, these were deadly tornadoes. Now, one of many organizations, though, right here in 5 Country are helping out. They're now collecting supplies to take to Wynne next week. That's one of the towns hit. That's in eastern Arkansas. While participating in a day of giving in Fayetteville on Thursday, organizers with the Ozark Mission Project say they're collecting supplies for that hard-hit city.
We have received a couple of donations of items. We just announced it yesterday, and so I know that people are kind of preparing what they can give. And we plan to receive a lot more donations next Monday and Tuesday that we can take to Wynne on Wednesday.
Now, if you want to donate to Ozark Mission, you can stop by their office along South 54th Street in Rogers. And before we get to other news of the day, let's get a check of the weather with meteorologist Zach Scott. Zach, we're heading into the Easter weekend. We're hoping for a good one.
Yeah, and overall, not looking bad, Joe. It's looking pretty good. Certainly looks a lot better than last year. If you'll remember, we had some cooler weather and some rainfall in the area. Temperatures today, we're dry. We're in the low to mid 60s. Similar to Thursday, the further northwest you go, the thinner the cloud cover. The further the southeast and south you go across 5 Country, the thicker that mid to higher level cloud deck is going to be for us. We're still anticipating temperatures into the 60s. There's going to be a breeze across the area today, about 5 to 15 miles per hour with some gusts up to 20 miles per hour, especially in northwest Arkansas and in the higher elevations of the Ouachita's. Could be a little gustier there. We've got temperatures for our first Friday forecast for downtown Bentonville. Bentonville Square is going to be rocking as we go through the day. Kicks off at 11 a.m., runs through 9 o'clock. We're looking for temperatures to go from the 50s into the low to mid 60s for highs, and then we're looking at temperatures to start to cool down. Again, wraps up at 9 o'clock. We'll start to see temperatures getting into the cooler 50s there. So I hope you have a safe and fun evening if you're heading to the first Friday in Bentonville. Easter weekend outlook looking pretty great too. That's what you wanted to know, Joe. We've got 60s and 70s for highs, mix of sun and clouds. And again, winds throughout the weekend are going to be light, about 5 to 15 miles per hour. And then as we break down that northwest Arkansas Easter Sunday forecast, a little bit closer look here for you. Again, we're going from the 40s to the 50s by mid-morning, mid 60s by lunchtime. And really, sometimes we can see a big spread, Joe, from northwest to southeast across 5 Country. Not this weekend. Temperature's going to be pretty uniform across the area. Again, we're not picking up on any rain chances until we get into Monday.
All right, that's great news. Thanks so much, Zach. All right, now we want to get you caught up on some stories that were top stories this week, but some that you may have missed. More than $100 million of personal income taxes could be cut in the natural state, but not everyone is on board with this proposed plan. 5 News reporter Micah Wilson has more on what this could mean for Arkansas and why some are against it.
Hey, good morning to you. Opponents of Senate Bill 549, which Governor Sanders announced this past week, says that this bill is just a tax cut for the rich, and they hope it does not pass. But those for the bill says it will help millions of Arkansans.
We have to continue to work until we can wipe the income tax off the books.
On Monday, Arkansas lawmakers worked towards that goal. The bill started in the Senate committee, but quickly moved into the House.
I'm concerned about it, you know. That's how I feel. I just feel concerned.
Bruno Showers, the senior policy analyst for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, says his group reached out to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy to model what the tax cut would mean for Arkansas.
And they estimate that 80% of the dollars of this tax cut would go to the top 20% of Arkansans. That's about people making $110,000 annually or more.
It drops the top rate from 4.9% to 4.7%, and that makes that effective as the beginning of this calendar year, so 1/1/23.
The bill would also drop the top corporate income tax rate from 5.3% to 5.1%. You may remember last session that former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson signed off on the state's largest income tax reduction bill. It's something Showers says only the rich benefited from, and that this new bill will be a repeat.
We have this upside down tax system that's asking for more from those who have less.
Instead of another round of tax cuts that mostly accrue to the already well-off, we just think that that revenue could be used to address some of those long-standing issues in our state. And so that's why we oppose this legislation.
But the bill's lead sponsor, Senator Jonathan Dismang, says this bill will help Arkansans.
All taxpayers that make above $24,300 will benefit.
State finance officials say 1.1 million taxpayers will be a part of this tax cut.
The high rates of inflation that we're dealing with mostly hit the 400,000 Arkansans that are left out of this tax cut.
The push for further tax cuts comes after Arkansas ended last fiscal year with $1.6 billion in surplus.
We've had some issues with various industries that have either contemplated leaving or have not settled in Arkansas because of what we have for throwback.
Now you heard Senator Dismang talk about the throwback rule. Well, it is a statute that states can adopt and use to ensure corporations pay their state taxes on 100% of their profits. Michael Wilson, 5 News.
All right, that bill was out in the hands of the House. It should be discussed at the legislative session again later this month. And the threat of storms this week kept students and teachers home in Little Rock. You remember those tornadoes swept through 1 week ago today. But Frederick Price introduces us to a North Little Rock teacher who still answers the bell, organizing relief efforts for her students after that devastating tornado.
Although Amboy Elementary closed Wednesday, Trinita Kelly is still hard at work making a difference in her 75 students' lives.
This is something that they've never experienced, their parents have never experienced, maybe even their grandparents.
Friday's tornado damaged homes in the Amboy community in North Little Rock, leaving many of her students in an even tougher spot.
We have a large population of our students that are, at or below the poverty line.
And finding shelter after this storm, Trinita tells me, is among the most immediate need for her parents.
And these are families that needed assistance like right now.
So she created a GoFundMe for emergency relief, hoping to raise at least $1,000 to bring some sort of help for these families.
Just being able to make sure that those families are housed and they don't have to worry about where they're going to stay next.
You can consider Trinita a profound educator, one who selflessly thinks about her students even in her off time.
I absolutely love my students.
And because she is so connected to this tight-knit community, she wants her students to know they are loved and cared for.
A lot of them, they're traumatized and they may not understand fully why they're traumatized.
She and some other staff members also got together Tuesday to brainstorm relief ideas. Instead of focusing on upcoming state testing when school resumes, Trinita says their focus will be their students' emotional well-being.
It's not just about teaching, math or teaching them things in school that you can learn, but just being able to be there for them.
And in other news, there have been massive walkouts at schools across the nation this week, as well as right here in Arkansas. Students across the country spent part of the day on Wednesday taking a stand against gun violence in America. 5 News reporter Rachel Williams shows us how students here at home were making their voices heard.
There are children dying from this.
Wednesday afternoon, several students walked out during their lunch period to protest gun violence and advocate for more gun control.
Every single week, we hear another story of another school being shot up, and we are tired. We, the people, are wanting and demanding action. We want gun reform now. We are tired of living our school lives in fear. We are here to learn, and with the thought of, lockdown drills and the thought that this might be the day we all die.
In light of the deadly mass school shooting that happened recently in Nashville, Wednesday's peaceful protest happened at schools across the nation. April 5th is also near the anniversary of the Columbine High School shooting that happened in 1999.
My little brother is 12 years old and he fears for his life every day going to school because something might happen to him.
According to the national group Students Demand Action, gun violence is the leading cause of death in American children and teens. Students say they want lawmakers to address real issues in the state.
And our government has overlooked this hundreds of times and have done nothing about it.
It is easier to get a gun than to get ADHD medication. It is easier for an Arkansan to become a victim of gun violence and then to get their next meal. And I think those are real issues that they are not facing.
In Fayetteville, covering news where you live, Rachel Williams, 5 News.
Well, Alan Wilburn with Fayetteville Schools says the district does not have official comment on that walkout, but says the students were exercising their First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Now, those are some of the stories you might have missed this week that were top headlines across our area. Of course, we'll continue to follow the news all day and all weekend. Make sure to catch up with it again anytime at 5newsonline.com. Have a great weekend.